Welcome, everybody. I'm Piper Shepherd. We'll get started in a few moments. A little house etiquette before we begin. For your best enjoyment, please use speaker view and please check your mics to make sure they're muted. And as a reminder, this event will be recorded. So if you do not want to be recorded, you can leave your camera off. Thank you all so much for attending this event, and we'll get started momentarily. Good evening, or good afternoon, and even good morning to some of you. Welcome to the Baltimore Natural Dye Initiative Spring Symposium Series. I'm Piper Shepard.
And I'm Valeska Popolo, and we are faculty in the Fiber Department at the Maryland Institute College of Art and members of the Baltimore Natural Dye Initiative team. As settlers on this land where Piper and I are, we wanted to acknowledge the Piscataway Band and Chesapeake First families, whose unceded land we here in the place now commonly referred to as Baltimore, Maryland, live and work on. We also want to acknowledge the many other Indigenous peoples who have been uprooted and displaced from their ancestral homelands and call Maryland their home in the present day.
Thank you, Valeska. It is with immense appreciation for community and relationships that we are pleased to introduce tonight's session with Rosa Sungji Cheng, whose research and project, the Indigo Shade Map, we uphold this evening. And we are honored to be joined by a panel of artists, practitioners, and scholars who have a profound connection to indigo, which they will share with us tonight. So a little bit about Rosa. Rosa Sungji Cheng is a Korean-born multidisciplinary artist focusing on visual fiber art and research-based visual storytelling, which convey a sustainable balance between humans and the natural world. Rosa believes that farming and planting is a fundamental activity for connecting humans and nature to be in a coexisting relationship, and it is the true value of practicing both art and social justice within community. We here in Baltimore from the Baltimore Natural Dye Initiative thank Rosa for her original conception of growing and cultivating indigo as a way to connect people with the healing power of plants and indigo dyeing. For the Baltimore Natural Dye Initiative, Rosa has many complex roles. She is senior advisor for the Natural Dye Initiative at the Maryland State Arts Council. She is liaison between project partners, including Maryland state agencies and the Natural Dye Cultural Center in Naju, South Korea. She's an advisor at the Dye Garden at Parks and People Foundation, and co-farming collaborated with Kenya Miles, who is a panelist this evening here at Hidden Harvest Farm. And her past experiences and research with Indigo, she has shared in all her curricular work with us at MICA. So we thank her for that. And if you'd like to learn more about the Baltimore Natural Dye Initiative, please look at some videos that we have on our website that are all about the series.
So this evening, Rosa will converse with 4 practitioners: Brittany Bolds, Ghazali Adeyemo, Wang Sik Kim, and Kenya Miles through her project called the Indigo Shade Map. And the Indigo Shade Map is an interactive infographic map that was originally created in 2016 and then redeveloped in the spring of 2020. And this initiative started as a way to map the use of 3 different kinds of indigo that are grown around the world: Indigofera tinctoria, Polygonum tinctorium, and woad. And the project is an ongoing work to connect these powerful plants with the lives and people in a complex textile history for better connection and understanding towards one another. We want to thank artists Eva Sei, Anushka Jajodia, Audrey Naiva, and project manager Kate McGrain for their incredible work on this series. We also want to extend our deep gratitude to the First Lady of Maryland, Yumi Hogan, the Maryland State Arts Council, and to MICA for their continuous support for this project. So tonight is an opportunity to be in conversation with 4 incredible dye practitioners based on the video presentations that Piper mentioned that were released earlier this week. And if you have not had a chance to view these, you will see links to those in the chat. The format for tonight is going to be as follows. Each panelist will be introduced, followed by a question and answer session. Please feel free to place your questions in the chat at any time, and Audrey and Eva will be helping to answer them or share them with the panelists. After the question and answer session, Rosa will share some highlights from a curated online exhibition that you all will have access to. And lastly, the evening will close out with a short video. So we hope you enjoy these conversations, and we thank you very much for coming here and attending.
Thank you so much, Piper and Valeska, for your endless of support and also friendship. This is my first symposium on the Indigo Shade Map, so it is important to me to honor those who I have been in direct relationship with, and to introduce people to Indigo from different perspectives, cultures, and regions. I have asked myself, what is the meaning of being a Korean American, and how does my practice become transformed in this culture in America? Sharing this multiple perspective tonight, I hope will provide us all insight into the beauty and deep connection we all feel to the plants and dyes that teach us every day. As well, to affirm the connections between us. I would like to share a short video that reflects quotes from each panelist. Give me a moment, please.
I'm really interested in, I think that sharing story and sharing intimate connection over indigo is maybe one of the most important pieces of art that I will collaborate on, even more important than any piece of cloth that I dye. So I'm really interested in those communal connections and the stories, and then sharing those stories with other folks.
I think I'm just here to tell a different story. And it's not a story that's steeped in like a very specific tradition. There's also a legacy to people who, you know, are like me, you know, American, without a story of immigration or a story of, you know, like legacy that I would know. My legacy is really having people understand that there's so many practitioners who are doing this work, who deserve space on the stage to talk about that and to be able to make money doing it.
전쟁 이후에는 아예 소멸되어버린 그런 상황이었습니다. 그런 상황에서 염색을 해보고자 하는 열망은 크고 또 꼭 해야 되겠다는 어떤 그런 뭐라 할까 이제는 저에게는 뭐 어떤 운명처럼 다가와 버렸기 때문에 어떤 식으로든지 염색을 해야 했었죠.
People always say, why indigo? Because of the history. Indigo is very powerful. You have a message. It's a color of healing. It's a color of love. It's a color of medicine. It's not ordinary dye. And it's deeper than blue. And to me, when I look the indigo, what is so impact in this life, it brings us together and it unites the world. Like a spider, we all connect like a spider web.
Thank you for watching it. Also, let me introduce each panelist. Okay, first of all, thank you everyone to joining us tonight. And also, I wouldn't be here today if I didn't meet Mr. Wang-Shik Kim about 4 years ago when he and his team visited MICA and Baltimore from Naju, South Korea. I would like to express my gratitude to him and his whole team in the museum for their endless support of sharing indigo farming knowledge, references, and sending us 13 pounds of dehydrated niram, which is indigo paste that made by Korean traditional method, for free. We were able to use the materials in the class with students and enjoy the indigo dye. When I practiced the indigo extraction every summer with Kenya, I noticed that how that physical demanding and all hardship that I cannot express my gratitude for your generosity. Mr. Wang-Shik Kim has talked of the historical importance of indigo and natural dyes in Korea. He has researched the deep history of indigo having been lost after the Korean War. Mr. Kim's motivation is to regain the history through his research and work. Mr. Kim is Vice President of Naju Culture Foundation and the Executive Director of the Natural Dyeing Museum in Naju, South Korea. Although Mr. Kim originally studied law from college, he completely switched his career path to the Korean natural dye and its tradition, and has been practicing it for the past 30 years. Mr. Kim's natural dye artwork have been introduced in many exhibitions, including 9 solo exhibitions and Cheongwade, also known as the Blue House, the executive office and official residence of the President of the Republic of Korea. I want to thank Kibibi Ajanku for introducing me and the Natural Dye Initiative to Kasali in 2019. Kasali Adiemo was our visiting artist in a week-long visit to MICA, Kapin State, and Park and People Foundation. Kasali is the third born of 5 from the small village located in Nigeria. Kasali's mother was his first and most important teacher in learning the traditional art of Yoruba tribe. In 1990, he attended the Nikkei Center for Arts and Culture, where he remained for 6 years studying traditional Yoruba batik, adire eleko, tie-dye, and indigo. This experience opened the door to greater opportunities, and he has since been traveling the world, conducting workshops and exhibitions, sharing the arts and culture of the Yoruba people of Nigeria. What is the meaning of growing indigo in America? Such as complex meaning. Kenya Miles is a local dyer and farmer in Baltimore. Kenya speaks of herself to lost culture and history from the African diaspora. We often talk about how we adopt our culture to this land. Kenya is the artist, alchemist behind Traveling Miles Studio and Blue Light Junction. Kenya's work honors ancient practice while harmoniously drawing on a distinctive contemporary voice. She is currently an artist in residence at MICA and a farmer for the Baltimore Natural Dye Initiative and founder and owner of Blue Light Junction here in Baltimore. Kenya is an avid traveler, gardener, and above all else, Indigo's mother, her son. Brittany Ball is an artisan, educator, and indigo doula, tending Persicaria tinctoria and other dye plants in collaboration with North Fork 53 Farm in the unceded territory of the Chinook, Clatsop, and Nehalem nations, Nehalem, Oregon. Indigo has become a guide, friend, and metaphor, touching every hem of her life. The craft of the vat, plant processes, and communal blue kinship have become the full expression of her art and inspiration. In addition to in-person and virtual intuitive indigo courses, Britt works collaboratively with other artisans, farmers, and educators on projects including the Indigo Pigment Extraction Method Global Network, Blue Biographies C2 Story, Interview Series Indigo Fest, and the Natural Dye podcast. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Before we accept questions for audiences, we have our first question to everyone. Can each of you reflect upon how Indigo has built and sustained your communities?
Well, I'll go first since we're all quiet. So one of the things that happened, I think, with the Natural Dye Initiative was that Rosa, myself, other Kabibi, other folks in the Natural Dye Initiative were really looking to connect, I think, deeper into the stories and into an understanding of indigo globally. And I think that that sort of pathway opened up a lot of different experiences for people within MICA, as well as sort of extending out to the greater community. As COVID hit, we were really in a situation where people were really uncertain of how to gather. Obviously, we're still trying to figure that out. But we were fortunate that we had this garden at Hidden Harbor. We were given a space to rest, restore, sort of work through things. And I think for us, the labor of growing indigo together as a community, initially the first season that we grew at Hidden Harvest, everybody grew indigo individually. And then I remember bringing them, everyone brought them and we planted them all together in the spring of 2019. And I remember thinking, let's keep the names of everyone's, indigo, so we'll know, like, when we're cutting down somebody's indigo, whose it was. That didn't happen because we don't have labels at the garden ever. But it was just really beautiful to sort of think about, like, the hands that went into it and the hands that harvested it in multiple seasons. And that collective growing extended into the pandemic and more community who were just sort of homebound. And I think that that's really the way that I sort of see it at this point. It's no longer, because my thing is I really practice indigo in a private manner. It's a personal thing. It's one of the reasons that I named my son Indigo, just the relationship to it and the sacredness. but I love now that it's really about everybody. And so I feel really honored to have had that experience and to continue that.
I think I will go next.
Sure.
Gasali? Yeah, for me, uh, Indigo is very, even when I try to break it through, because that is why I call my mother, she's a midwife. We call her the mother of all children in the village, because when I was a young kid, Indigo have been, I've been seeing what is the impact in my community when I was a little kid. Even before I was introduced it to dye with the fabric. That is why when I try to break it through with people, like, Indigo is not ordinary dye. It's have a lot of impact into so many things in our community. Even when we dye the fabric himself to Indigo, is something we don't even wear only. We make use of it as a medicine as well. And I think I've said it long time ago. The first time people say, when do you introduce to the Indigo? When my sister, she was making transition to marry to another family. So I kind of realized, like, why my parents give her Indigo cloth and the white fabric. So that is very powerful to me, because I was kind of really not pay attention until when they return the other fabric, which is Indigo. So what is the message behind that? So when they send that to the husband place, so they have to return either one of those fabric, Indigo fabric or the plain white fabric. So when they return it, they have to cut the little edge of that Indigo piece. So which means the good news for my sister was found very completely. Like, she's been very honest. So Indigo, to what I've been seeing in my own environment, that is why I always say it's not ordinary dye. Even I let people know that when we prepare the dye vat in my community, there's nothing go waste. Everything I've been using. So which means, like, when we do the dye vat, the stem, the plant in the dye pot, even the liquid, what will have a leftover is a medicine as well. Even Indigo fabric himself, when you have a little baby, the baby doesn't respond, you hold it back in the day. Even till now in Nigeria, when the kid doesn't respond, maybe something he or she is not breathing, what my parents always do, they just cut little piece of fabric of Indigo, they put it on the fire and they make a little smoke. So we have to kind of blow it close to the nose of the children. The next thing you see, the children will start to respond right away. That is why I say Indigo, to me, is deeper than the dye. People see what I'm wearing, they say, oh, Gasali, I love your tie-dye. I love your beautiful design. But that is what I let my students know, or people I spoke to, about why Indigo was so important in our life. What did it represent? What is the message? So even include when you go to a lot of healing, that is my brother who took my father's step right now in Nigeria. Any medicine man you visit in Nigeria today, we call it okusu aro, which means leftover indigo vat. When somebody eats something, you wake up in the morning, your belly was feeling funny, that is the next thing they reach out for you to put it in a little spoon and drink it. It's a natural dye, it's a healing, it's a color of love. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gasali. Britt, do you want to answer the question too?
Yeah, thank you, Rosa. So what is the community impact for me? It's been a really expansive community journey for me. It started out locally here, finding a farmer who was in the middle of their first year growing indigo, my dear friend Kara. And it evolved to myself growing with a couple of other friends here, and us quickly realizing we didn't actually know what we were doing or how to process a plant, how to go through with the making of the dye from indigo. So my evolution took a slightly different route onto the virtual online platform. So this started with interacting with natural dyers through social media, through Instagram, through Facebook, and it quickly blossomed into this beautiful online community. So the Indigo Pigment Extraction Methods group on Facebook is where I am able to really get an intimate look into people's very personal indigo experiences. They're sharing their questions, they're sharing their failures, they're sharing their victories, they're sharing their processes, they're sharing pictures and videos, making connections with each other. And this is a global group, so I get to learn about different types of indigo that I've actually never seen in person. It's a real honor, it's a treat for me. It's how I've met so many of you actually through that group. So this has been really important to me, especially during last year when we were all really isolated from in-person events. I was able to reach out to that online community and ask people to share their intimate stories. And that's where Blue Biographies came about, which was the Seed to Story interview series, getting a really personal, intimate look at why indigo, why were people growing it, what was their driving force, what were they doing with that indigo, and then how is that rippling out into their communities. So that's been really meaningful to me because well, I've been honored that people would share that intimately with me, and to be able to share it in a big way, in a big communal way, with folks I may never meet in person, but I feel so connected to. So that connectedness that Ghazali was mentioning, that love is big and expansive with Indigo, and I'm really honored to be here with you all in this community. Thanks.
Before I introduce Audrey for tonight, Audrey will be collecting questions, but before introducing Audrey, I would also like to ask the same question to Mr. Kim in Korean language. So give me 1 second, please. 관장님,
네, 안녕하세요.
네, 제가 질문 드릴게요.
예.
여러분 각자는 인디고가 어떻게 여러분의 공동체를 형성하고 유지시켜 왔는지 생각해 볼 수 있나요?
제가 답을 할 때
네.
노사가 번역을 해야 되는데, 통역해야 되는데,
네.
귀절귀절 끊어가면서 이야기를 할게요.
네,
그래야
그렇게 해주세요.
그래야 되겠죠?
네.
사실 그 인디고는 우리가 역사적으로 세계 역사적으로 알다시피 굉장히 오래된 염색의 문화 역사를 갖고 있죠.
As we all know, indigo has such a deep-rooted long history, not only in Korea but all over the world, and each culture has distinctive indigo history and culture.
이제 현대에 들어서서 그 인디고에 대한 이야기는 새로운 각도에서 새로운 조명을 받고 있는 것 같습니다.
And I've noticed that the meaning of indigo has been having such a very new perspective than before.
한국에서도 인디고 역사는 굉장히 오래됐는데 한국에서 인디고를 바라보는 시각은 현재는 어떻게 하면 산업화로 진행이 될 수 있을 건가, 연결이 될 수 있을 건가. 그래서 어떤 이런 지금 미래 사회의 친환경이라든지 무슨 뭐 환경적인 그런 쪽하고 산업화하고 어떻게 조화롭게 연결시켜서 진행할 것인가가 화두가 되어 있습니다.
bear with me, it's a little bit long. So I'll do my best to translate. As we all know, Indigo has also very deep history in South Korean culture as well. And these days, Indigo has been, there are many people think about Indigo, how to industrialize Indigo for the larger quantity and for the for a production process. However, not only about that, but how can we combine that sustainability and sustainable balance between that industrialization and also the natural dyeing process. 네.
그런 목적에서 보면 사실 그 인디고라는 주제 하나로 공동체를 형성할 수 있는 그 의미를 지닌 것 같습니다.
네. In that aspect, not only also about the culture, but also the market and the daily life, since there are a lot of daily necessity product also dye with the indigo also have been produced in Korea, and then people use it for daily life. So in that case, I agree that the indigo itself can be the plants and dye process to connect people all together and create a great community. 네.
그런 의미에서 저희가 그 2018년도에 미국 마이카 대학을 방문을 했는데 그때 그 어떤 가능성을 봤냐면은 인디고를 이렇게 통해서 인디고라는 염제를 통해서 같은 생각과 같은 문화를 만들어갈 수 있다. 그러면 뜻이 똑같다 하면은 어쩌면은 보다 폭넓은 공동체를 형성할 수 있지 않겠는가 하는 생각을 합니다. 그게 인디고죠.
I got to visit to MICA in Baltimore City 2018. And that time, I saw the possibility that how people love indigo, and also no matter where we are from and no matter how different cultures we have, but we also can be all connected through the one plant indigo and then the dye process. And in that degree, he felt so great to be in Baltimore, as well as meet other peoples and how to practice indigo dyeing.
인디고가 산업화가 되든 아니면 인디고를 통해서 예술을 하든 어떤 목적성을 가지고 인디고를 다루든 간에 인디고를 통해서 어떤 일을 할 수 있다면 그게 공동체를 형성하는 플랫폼이 될 거다고 생각을 하고 있습니다.
Whether you make art out of indigo, whether you grow indigo, whether you use the indigo as a medicinal purpose, whether you use the indigo for the industrialization or for the market, for education, whatsoever you use indigo, and still you will be able to create the greatest community, because indigo itself can be the great platform to open the door for the community and connect people together.
그 인디고를 통해서 이런 심포지움을 하게 되는 것도, 그리고 또 브리트니 블레스, 케냐 마일즈, 가살리 아데이모, 로사 이렇게 만나서 이런 심포지움을 하는 것 자체가 공동체를 벌써 형성하고 있는 거다, 그렇게 생각합니다. 행복합니다. 이상입니다.
감사합니다. I feel really happy and grateful tonight because we are even doing the symposium itself with the one subject indigo, by introducing and inviting Kenya Miles, Brittany Bowles, Casalia Diemo, and myself, Rosa. So he feels so happy that we already created our great community tonight.
Thank you.
감사합니다. Well, yeah, now we can open our Q&A. Audrey, are you ready?
I'm ready. Hi, I'm Audrey. I am a student intern for the Natural Dye Initiative right now, and I'm a fiber major at MICA. And I've been involved with the Natural Dye program for about 2 years now. So I will be looking in the chat and seeing if we have any questions. I don't see any questions right now, but I think we do have questions that we prepared to get us started. So if you have.
Actually, wait, are we waiting? Yes. While we are collecting a question, actually, I have one more question. Can I ask to the all presenters?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. You have each discussed sharing story as a kind of ethos or belief for your work and being. Can you share with us how and why this is significant to you?
Your question again? Like,
Yes, sure.
go ahead again.
You have each discussed sharing story as a kind of motto or belief for your work and being. Can you share with us how and why this is significant to you?
It was very significant for me in so many ways, because to my knowledge, I believe people should, like, for me, people, like we say, Indigo unite the world. I think, to my knowledge, is people should try to see how the other culture, which is the reason why I like to share so many stories behind my Indigo, in the Indigo traditional from Yoruba culture, is because I just want to bring people in to see how we live our life in our culture, and also, especially, it's all kind of going together, include the design we put on the fabric, and then plus Indigo we dye with it. So when I say it in my language, I say it in Yoruba. Gbogbo nkan loko. It contain the whole thing. To me, for sharing the culture, like today I was talking to the student in one school, that is what my passion, that is what my goal, like how I can preserve the traditional. I don't like to use this language. I call it this is only what I have, my weapon, because it's my identity. So what makes me so proud of it is when I came to United States, I don't know you have to carry your identification. So until when I get here, but back home, I have a 3 different group who's watching me tonight, and Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba. So even Indigo is one of the impact of my dress code. Even when I flew around the United States or Europe or all over the globe, when people see me at the airport, what they say is, "Oh, wow, I love Nigeria." But how do they know? So that thing only, because I can be able to demonstrate my culture, and I was so happy to be able to wear my identity all the time. And I want to bring people in, and that keep me go. That's why I go home every year, to encourage a lot of young people. This is what we have. This is what we have to keep doing in our daily basis, because anybody trace Adire Leko or Indigo history in Yoruba culture, there's our father before father. I'm from 7th generation. So they've been having a lot of peace. People travel to any museum in globally, they can see. That is what wake me up every day. What do I want to leave for the generation to come? That is why I'm seeing this, and that is why I'm still going to doing this. I hope it fit with the question you asked me. I'm not sure, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Gasali.
We're starting to get some more questions. So we got a really good one that we can ask the whole panel is, what was your first experience with indigo? Tell me about your reaction to the first time you saw something die with indigo.
I'll talk about the first time that I met the plant. So I met the plant now, I guess it was 6 years ago, and I was in shock. Honestly, I was baffled that a green plant that looked like a huge basil leaf could oxidize to this magical teal, blue, green substance, and it was life-changing. It literally changed the course of my direction. I was a musician and a music teacher, and my pendulum swung when I met indigo. So it was really impactful. It literally changed the course of my art and now my identity and my community. So it was big. It was a big moment for me.
I'll go so that my son can continue to run around.
You're indigo.
When I first met Indigo, he was 9 pounds, 10 ounces. So my first experience, Indigo was literally my first experience natural dyeing. And so as the story goes, people have heard this before, but I had a friend who was from El Salvador. And so we were working on a competition and decided to do the sort of sustainability end. And what was interesting is that she sort of introduced me through her culture in El Salvador, having had experience with people working on it there. When we did get the indigo, and this must have been like 2009 or 2010. I was like, great, this is so exciting. And she was like, I don't know what you mean. You're from this country. You just gave me all these great stories. So I think I'm a little bit relentless when I want to do something or when I sort of get inspired and excited. And though it wasn't my first experience seeing natural dyes, having been to Oaxaca many years before, it was my first time trying to unearth the magic of this dye. And I just took months and months and months and, just failed consistently trying to figure it out over and over, I think. And so I think that sort of experience gave me the, I think, continued excitement to try to figure out different ways, different recipes, and to start going to understand all of this. And so that was really, for me, this poignant moment where it just felt like a lifelong practice. And I really wanted to be able to have that personally and privately. And so that for me is sort of the experience. And then even to touch on what you were asking earlier about stories, I often liken natural dyers to poets, and the language is what a poet brings. And so I think having story be this really continuous space that dyers offer to all of the people who are there to receive it is really just about the language of poetry. And I see it in that way. And that's the work that I feel, like Britt was saying, just it just builds up something in you. And even if you don't touch on those people in person or it's a fleeting experience, you're more enriched than when you came.
Thank you, Kenya. I'm going to ask a question to Mr. Kim. 김왕식 관장님, 제가 질문 드릴게요. 혹시 처음 인디고 염색했을 때 말씀해 주실 수 있으세요? 저희가 지금 처음 인디고 염색했을 때 반응이 어땠냐에 대한 질문이에요.
네. 저는 그 인디고를 처음 염색할 때가 1998년 정도 된 것 같아요.
네.
예, 그때 처음 인디고 염색을 했던 것 같은데, 일단 제가 인디고 브루 그 청색을 굉장히 좋아해요, 개인적으로. 다른 색깔 중에서도.
네.
근데 처음 이렇게 제가 다른 사람이 인디고 염색을 해놓은 건 봤지만, 제가 처음으로 염색해서 그 색깔을 봤을 때는 정말 그 하늘을 날아가고 싶은 그런 흥분 그런 거였죠. 예.
제가 지금 설명드릴게요. Personally, my favorite color is blue. And the first time when I tried the indigo dyeing, it was around 1998, and I cannot express the feeling that it just not indigo dyeing, the blue color blew me away. So I still clearly remember the feeling.
사실 한국에서는 인디고 제가 주제 발표회 때 말씀을 드렸지만은 인디고 역사는 굉장히 오래됐어요. 근데 그 염색 방법이 현대 사회에 들어와서 한국에서는 염색 기술이라든지 이런 게 거의 단절되다시피 했고, 제가 처음 염색했을 때도 염색 방법을 몰라가지고 상당히 이렇게 어려운 경우가 많이 있었는데, 그런 것들 기술을 어쩌면 좀 복원을 하고 또 되찾아가고 그리고 색깔을 만나고 하는 과정들은 굉장히 어려운 험난한 길이긴 했지만, 실제로 염색을 하고 또 염색 결과를 이렇게 스스로 받아볼 때는 아주 굉장한 보람이었죠. 그때가 이제 처음으로 느껴졌던 인디고하고 어떤 흥분된 만남이라 할까, 그런 거였죠. 예.
네. 제가 한국 전쟁에 대한 이야기도 조금 껴서 같이 지금 설명해 드릴게요. If you guys saw the recorded presentation, indigo used to be almost like indigo is the plant itself almost like gone right after the Korean War, because there was a 3 years war and the Persicaria tinctoria plants was annual plants. So finding that traditional indigo method itself was almost impossible, that he almost spent so many years to finding those old evidence and then references, and also just even get into do the indigo dye in 1998. Just that the whole many years he had to do research and find to be able to do the dye. So that whole journey itself was very painful sometimes because of the war. War destroyed everything back in the day, and that's why he felt it was so like even happier and important doing the indigo dye itself, that how he was able to restore that forgotten and removed culture, and bring that plants and both plants and culture back to the nation. And he felt it was his fate. 네, 감사합니다.
네, thank you. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
We have another question to ask the group. So as an artist who is newly practicing in natural dyes, indigo and shibori technique, How can this artist bring awareness and honor to the cultures that this art is derived from without it being seen as American tie-dye, and provide a connection to the history in the community?
I don't want to keep going for it.
Oh,
The
Kasali, go
question,
ahead.
I
Please.
just, because I love that question. The reason why I like to talk about it is
Sure.
because when I do, even right now, people might see on the screen, I'll do some little tie-dye right now. But I just, that is what makes me really, when I call my page traditional Yoruba batik, Adire, and tie-dye. Even I don't even want to call it that name because Adire is the name. Tie-dye, which is, people call it tie-dye. But what I like to break through sometimes when I explain to a lot of, when people say, oh, your work look like shibori, because I let people go back to think back like, yeah, it looked like shibori, of course, from Japan or from other part of the world. But we don't call it shibori in my country. So each design, there is when I want to put everything like to kind of put everything together, it's part of the life we're living in and what we practiced in the community is what we place in the design. That is why when I say, oh, this piece is called alakete, it's called heart. One of them is called, it's called alabefele. So all those things. One is called record, which is musician. But people, I mean, a lot of things like that. But to the question, to me, I was just trying to separate that. Like when people see other work from different part of the world. So that is why when I teach, I always write everything down in my language, in Yoruba and English. So people can see, like, although people know it as a sipori, people know it as a tie-dye or something, but it's tie-dye, of course, we tie it, but that is why we call it adire uniko, which is tie with the grass, adire alabere, which is also stitching. So that is the name also we have into it. That's why I like to break it into that pieces. Like, this is not our improvise. This is come from generation after the generation. Also, a lot of people watch it tonight, they know. But to my explanation is, this thing is like, it have background, what is behind it. And people see some of my work, the one I was called right now, Alabefele, they say he looked like worm. Of course, it looked like worm if you see that picture of the fabric, but we don't call it like that name. But that is why, because it's very deep to my, I mean, sometimes I don't know how to explain for my knowledge, but I just feel like, and to what is his name saying about when you first introduced to the Indigo, because to mine, Indigo introduced when I was in the primary school, which is elementary school in Nigeria. That is why when we talk about music and art in my culture, they all came together as a form of art. That is why we sing the song about Ijokun. Aro. Ijokun is a fake dye when I was a little kid. And that is what we used to color the writing board in school when I was a little kid, before our teacher write what we can see on the screen. So that thing made me feel like, wow. So Indigo is being around, but of what he said earlier, it's a little complicated to make sure, is that the right dye? They call it Indigo? It's not. But that is why I always say, in Japan and all over the world, everybody have their Indigo god. But my own Indigo god, my Yoruba Indigo god, I always say is called Iyamako, because that is the first woman who helped us identify what is Indigo Fera, which is Elu. And that is why even when I say it's not called only indigo, we call it aro ikoko, aro ibile, and so on and so on and so on, because it's a natural dye, of course. So anyway, don't let, I'm just gonna let it be like that because I have a lot to talk about
Sure.
that. Why? Thank you so much.
Thank you,
you.
Asali. Oh, if you, by the way, if you guys happen to watch it, Kasali's presentation, it's on the YouTube channel now, and then, yeah, you'll be able to learn the Yoruba tradition and also that the each distinctive names. Now, either Brittany or Kenya, do you wanna talk about it? Or shall we move to the next question?
I can sort of just say my personal
Of course, yes, please.
is more that that's partly why I never really taught indigo, because I feel like when I started learning it, I was also making products in the Bay Area to sell, and people sort of kept comparing the work to a small group of people who were doing the work, or like asking me if I could do things that more sort of resonated around shibori. A lot of the things that I did, I'm really into like graphic imagery. I come from a really heavy graphic background, and so a lot of it was just sort of me doing a lot of wax and kind of finding my way through that. And I think that for me, it set me back because I felt like being a Black American, not having a specific tradition to call on, but also understanding that there are so many traditions as I was continuing to learn about it. I think being in a space where sort of people were expecting things to be Japanese, or that your techniques would mirror those things. Like, I'm really awful at shibori. Like, I don't know how to clamp. I don't do it well. So like, don't ask me to do that. It's not going to look good. But again, having sort of come from learning certain things through tradition, in experiences and settings in other countries, I think that what I then felt compelled to do was sort of have it be my interpretation of an experience, but through my own lens. And so that's sort of where indigo sat for me. And so I've been able to, since in teaching natural dyes in other ways, come to this project now and really start to reconnect to those questions, right? Like, where do those things sit? What does it mean to be a practitioner of indigo? What are the conversations that are on the outskirts that can be brought closer? And so that's sort of where my work and connection is coming through Blue Light Junction, is to be able to look at and essentially be a facilitator of that knowledge, and to say, these are the people to seek out, these are the places where this information derives from, and sort of to be a host in a way, but not in a way that sort of looks like appropriation or doing something that is not in honor of the work that I know. So I think it's just a balance, and a lot of that is asking a lot of questions, more questions than answers sometimes.
Yeah, I'd love to add to that too. That really resonates with me, Kenya. Also, I think anytime you begin a foray into any art form, initially you look to reference other artists, right? You look for inspiration. And so we can't help but see these, this record of indigo practices from around the world, and want to imitate and sometimes copy those things that we see. I think some of the confusion sometimes lies in the labels themselves, and even like shibori, like you see it on mass-produced clothing that is dyed with synthetic dyes. And so what does that even mean at this point is it's challenge, I think, to wade through, especially when you're entering this indigo world for the first time. So I always encourage people to dig a little deeper and seek out. So if you know where that word originates, shibori, from Japan, seek out teachers, seek out books, seek out and reference and research, the origins, as opposed to, learning it online from, just someone who's using that term loosely. It holds a lot of meaning, and like Gasali was saying, each design in his culture is not labeled shibori, and each one has a particular story. And so I think that also gives you an opportunity to create your own story with indigo, and maybe leave the labels if they don't resonate, if they're not part of your culture, leave those labels aside and really develop a personal technique, develop a personal relationship with indigo and your own designs.
Thank you so much, Britt and Kenya, for your answers. Audrey, can we move to the next questions?
Yeah, so this was actually at the top, but it got kind of buried in all the comments. But we had an artist who has been practicing indigo, and they've been learning with banana and pickling lime as their reduction agents. So they're just curious about what other people have used, specifically Gasali and Wangsa Kim. But any other artists who have an answer to this? Yeah.
Since Mr. Kim didn't answer for the last question, would it be okay if we ask that question to Mr. Kim first?
Yeah, I'd love to hear his answer for that too.
Thank you, because I also have to translate. So give me 1 second, please. I'm reading that sentence again. 김왕식 관장님.
네.
네, 질문이 있는데요.
네.
인디고 염색을 하시는 방법에서
네.
여기 지금 학생분이 여쭤보신 건데, 지금 이제 인디고 염색을 할 때 인디고 염색통을 만들 때 넣는 재료들이 되게 다양하잖아요.
네.
근데 이제 예를 들면은 이제 이런 아프리카 쪽에서는 바나나나 아니면 다른 재료를 넣기도 하거든요. 근데 한국에서는 이제 어떤 재료들을 넣어서 인디고 통을 만드시는지에 대해 설명해 주실 수 있으세요?
통을 이야기하는 거예요? 아니면은 인디고를 이렇게 염료를 환원을 시킬 때?
네, 환원시키는 거예요. 네.
그거 이야기죠?
네.
예. 보편적으로 우리 이제 보면은 화학적으로 쓰면은 환원제 하이드로 설파이트를 쓰잖아요.
네.
근데 이제 그게 이제 화학적으로 쓰는 거고,
네.
한국에서는 이제 이 쓰는 과정 속에서 첫째 이제 잿물,
네.
이를테면은 볏짚이나 콩대를 태워갖고 쓰는 알카리를 만드는 과정에서
네.
전통적으로는 잿물을 사용을 하고요.
네, 제가 지금 이거 먼저
네.
설명드릴게요. He's explaining about the most traditional way, not using the hydrosulfide. So for the traditional way that in Korea, they use ash water as a base of the indigo vat. The ash water usually came from the burnt beanstalk. That's what they commonly use it as a base. 네, 말씀해 주세요.
근데 이제 쪽이 이런 인디고가 환원이 되는 것은 사실은 알카리도 알카리지만은 사실은 당 포도당의 문제가 있어요.
네, 맞아요.
예, 그 포도당이 아주 중요한 부분을 차지하는데, 한국에서는 예전에는 막걸리를 넣었어요.
네.
막걸리 술 넣기도 하고. 그런데 현대에서는 지금 포도당, 물엿, 이런 거 넣어서 그 당 역할을 하는 그 부분을 하고 있는데, 그래서 보통은 한국에서 전통적으로 염색을 하고자 할 때, 전통 방법으로 할 때는 잿물하고 막걸리를 넣지만 현대에서 할 때는 이제 막걸리 넣고 그 알칼리 잿물 넣고 하면은 사실은 한올 하는데 시간이 굉장히 많이 걸려요. 한 일주일 내지는 적어도 15일 걸릴 때도 있고
네.
한올을 시키는데 그래서 시간이 너무 많이 걸리니까 전통적으로 한번 해보고 싶어 할 때는 그렇게 하지만 예, 지금 염색을 이렇게 많이 하거나 대량으로 할 때에는 하이드로설파이트나 아니면 포도당 자체를 넣고 하는 거죠, 물엿. 예.
네. 저는 이제 전통적인 방식을 먼저 설명드릴게요.
예, 예, 예.
For the most traditional way with the ash water, which create the alkaline base, and also add makgeolli, which is unfiltered rice wine, which has a sugar in it, because the sugar is the really important part to make to reduce the VAT. But in that case, it takes about a week to 15 days to ferment it to be ready to be used for the VAT. So in that degree, it takes, of course, longer time. And for the modern days in Korea, people sometimes use a corn syrup to substitute the makgeolli, and also some people also use a glucose. 네.
네.
Kasali, would you like to talk about that your indigo vat process? The recipe, not the recipe, but the ingredient you use it for your Yoruba indigo vat.
I mean, which is, I said earlier, like the whole world was connect with how we said it divert. But the only what I know from my own tradition is also the wood ash. But I mean, what changed according to when we do the documentary in 1993 back home? Back in the day, our great grandparents, they used the cocoa ash from the chocolate fruit cocoa, the shell. That's what they use for the wood ash. But when we, young generation like me, we say, oh, do we have to keep looking for cocoa ash? But that is only what changed, because it's the same alkaline we find to do the fermentation. But except from that, the only thing what I find difficult when I send my divert, if it doesn't react the way I really want to see it, when I move to United States, because I live in Santa Fe, and the weather drop is 8,000 feet. So which means I need to make sure during the evening, I have to have an electric blanket to kind of surround my dye pot to have a room temperature. Although my vat is a cold vat, but it cannot going down to like 50 or 40 degree cold. So it will have reaction to that. So, and you know, it's all natural dye, and it's just the only reaction you have with it. But right now in my studio, and he said they use the corn syrup, they use all those things to add the sugar. But I have a tree right here. We call it iron. When your iron is a little lower, and that is the tree we chew with our mouth. It's like it's red like a beet, but we cannot chew it. So to swallow the juice and throw the stem out on your mouth. That is only one I saw with my grandparents they use. Where indigo doesn't react very well, but it requires a little sugar, as what he said earlier. And it's just I have a little challenge when I travel to teach. Like if I want to teach long week class, I wish the indigo can stay more than 5 days. If it stay more than 5 days, I think it will be much even better for the fermentation, like he said. But that is why I have to go in the other direction. When I have to teach 3 days class, I have to make sure maybe that wood ash water, I have to kind of heat it up to speed the fermentation. That is only what I changed from my fermentation.
Thank you so much, Kasali. Actually, the
You're welcome.
process reminds me of the back in the day when I used to make the Sukumo vat as an assistant, that we also used wood ash water and with the Sukumo. And just the temperature and everything, we would never boil or making hot. So it's same as the Korean tradition too. So it's been interesting to hear all different processes. Now it's 8:13 and we have a time for one more questions. Yeah.
So we actually got a question in the chat about Sukumo vats, if anybody in this panel has had experience. So I know, Rosa, you just said that you had some experience, but if any of our other panelists have experience with Sukumo vat, this person says, I'm currently attempting a small batch of Sukumo in a burlap bag in my shed. I began with three pounds of Japanese dried indigo. Do any of the panelists have experience in doing this using Sukumo in a dye vat?
I have experience using the Sukumo vat, but I'm a host tonight. So I think Brittany, remember you are attempting to do the Sukumo, wasn't it? Or are you in the experiment moment?
Yes, so I'm very much in the experiment moment. I did harvest and dry my leaves last season in order to do a very similar technique where I would do a small compost. I wouldn't call it a traditional Sukumo, in that would be done on the floor with a big pile, but you can do it in a lot of different containers. You can do it in a small sack. I've seen people in the indigo pigment extraction methods do it in a cooler or other small vessels. So small scale composting can definitely happen. I can't speak a lot about the experience because I've just still got a big pile of dried leaves. It's very hard for me to dry leaves here. Actually, in this environment, I'm near the Pacific Ocean. And so it's very humid, and it took about 6 months for my leaves to fully dry, actually. So it's not really the technique that I'll be using, I think, from going forward. I've found that the aqueous extraction method works best for me. But I'm very interested in hearing about your results. Whoever that is asking that question. I hope you join the Indigo Pigment Extraction Methods group when you share with us. And I'd love to hear more about Rosa's experience.
Please email me. So, well, it's now 8:16 and Audrey, I think we have to actually move to the preview our exhibition.
Okay. I wish there was more time, but
I know. I mean, it's an hour, 30-minute session, and notice that it's already. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. One more question.
Okay.
Let's go.
So this one is for Mr. Kim. So if you'd like to help translate, Rosa. So this one is: do the younger generations learn indigo tradition in Korea now? Is it coming back?
김왕식 관장님, 오늘 지금 이거 마지막 질문인데요.
네.
지금 현재 한국에서도 젊은이들이 인디고 염색이나 이제 농사를 짓고 있나요? 그런 걸 배우는 친구들이 있나요?
한국의 인디고도 굉장히 발전을 많이 했는데요. 지금은 이제 저번에 말씀드렸듯이 우리 전쟁 이후에는 사실은 기술이 단절되다시피 이렇게 없었는데 지금 한국의 상황은 누구나 다 인디고 염색을 할 정도로 기술도 보급이 되어 있고 또 아주 쉽게 염색도 이루어지고 있어요. 가장 아쉬운 것은 현실적인 문제인데 한국의 젊은이들이 그 염색 문화에 좀 많이 뛰어들어서 이걸 좀 담당을 해주면 앞으로 미래의 발전을 기약할 수 있잖아요.
네.
지금은 좀 아쉽게도 젊은이들이 그렇게 많은 젊은이들이 염색에 이렇게 뛰어들어서 뭐 인디고 염색을 하거나 그러지는 않습니다.
Mr. Kim says that now experiencing indigo dyeing and culture itself in South Korea is very developed, and anybody can really enjoy and try the indigo practice. However, there are not many young people who learn the practice Korean traditional indigo method. And so he just really hoped to see more young people to bring that the culture back.
그 한국에서 인디고가 그 젊은이들이 많이 이렇게 인디고를 염색을 할 수 있으려면은 직업적이 됐거나 아니면 그걸 즐기려면은 한국 사회가 인디고 염색이나 이런 부분에 정책적으로 그걸 만들 수 있는 정부 정책이 좀 있어야 될 것 같고, 또 산업적으로 이렇게 그 발전해 가면 연결이 돼서 발전해 가면은 당연히 젊은이들이 그 천연염 인디고 염색에 참여하는 사람들이 많을 거라고 생각을 합니다. 그렇게 끌어가야 되겠죠. 예.
So although there are many young people who do indigo dyeing as more like a hobby and leisure, that one thing he really wished to see is that he really wished to see that how the indigo create more job opportunity and creating more like a professional path for young generations, so that they can pass down not only the knowledge but also using the indigo as a real job, and to create that bigger market and for more sustainable practice. He believes that the government have to create some sort of like more like stable structure and like system, so that any young people who want to or do indigo dye can survive both financially and also as an artist. 네, 감사합니다. Okay. Well,
Thank you everybody for your questions and for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Now we are moving to the online exhibition overview. I am going to share my screen to show our community exhibition called Dungji. Give me 1 second, please. Can you see the screen? Is it okay? All right. Okay, now we are entering the exhibition. Okay, this is the virtual exhibition space that total, we got almost 100 submissions for this online exhibition, that it was impossible to add all artwork in one space. So we had to create 3 different virtual exhibition room. And this is the biggest room called the community exhibition. And I just wanted to show you some artwork. And this is from Catherine Ellis. Okay, it's called the Garden Series Orange. It's a woven cotton and linen, meadow roots, and weld dyes. Okay. I'm just gonna show you briefly and I'm just gonna show you briefly to everything. Oh, that exhibition is currently on view and you guys also can access it. Okay. And this is one of our artists in residence, Kibi Biajanko's indigo dye work called the Osan's Purse. And this is a piece by An Pyong Lai, one of our community members. Okay, I am also going to show you the next room called the Indigo Shape Map. Give me one moment, please. There you go. You will see the beautiful Casales artwork. And I also wanted to show you the really quick videos. That artwork was this is the video submitted by the Changyeon Studio, which is in South Korea. That is the process how to make that indigo process of indigo extraction. Okay, I'm gonna now move to the next. Oh, I really wanted to show you this piece. That's from Brittany. It shows all different indigo process. And I really, really would like to. This the beautiful photo from Colby, where Kenya, do you want to talk a little bit about this picture?
Sure, Rosa, thanks for asking. That is a picture I love because it's me and my son Indigo harvesting. I believe it was the first harvest of last season of 2020 at Parks and People Foundation, which was our last year harvesting. Actually, we're going to do something else this year, but Yeah, it was beautiful. And I believe you are in the background with a sickle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that blue pants, that's
That's
me.
you. Rosa, cameo. Yeah, Colby took some beautiful pictures of our
Yes.
experiences. So
Yes.
I feel grateful to have that.
Yep. And this is the art piece from Mr. Kim. And it's called Early Dawn. And this is also Indigo dyed piece. All right. Oh, and there's another piece from Mr. Kim. Okay, we are supposed to be done by 8:30 and now it's already 8:28. I actually have one more important video and announcement. So I'm gonna stop share this exhibition. I'm sorry that my background sound. I'm here in Baltimore City downtown. Oh, I'm sorry, and excuse me again. I need a cup of water. Give me one. Anishka, can you hear me? Can you able to talk as well? Would you be hi? Would you be able to share a brief story of that the directory you're going to share tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll say a story. I think it's more of like asking for support,
right?
To kind of support people in India. It's kind of like a national emergency, and a lot of people are facing a lot of issues. There are no beds, and people are fighting for having oxygen cylinders. So I've kind of curated a list of different initiatives that people can donate to. And honestly, even $10 goes a long way in India. That equals maybe like 700 rupees, which is a lot. So we'll share a link about those initiatives, and feel free to go through those and see whichever ones you all feel more called to donate to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anishka, for sharing. Yeah, very good. Yeah, thank you so much again for everyone to be connected tonight. And before closing this online session, I wanted to share a little bit about the tomorrow session. I mean, the session for tomorrow. That tomorrow we have another Q&A online Zoom session called the Korean Nature Dies. Traditions meet the contemporary and beyond. So we'll be hosting this kind of format of Q&A session. And I hope you guys join tomorrow night. And here is a special surprise video to respond to tonight's live session. And also this is my personal gift to Kenya Miles and Son English Jr. and Laura Connelly, who've been growing Indigo together past 18 months, the Parks and People Foundation, that I was so happy that I was able to finish the video with my friend Maddie, who did the beautiful work for the videography. That will be our closing for the night, and I really hope you enjoy the video. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosa. You're amazing. Thank you, Kasali. Thank you, Wongsik. Thank you, Britt. This was amazing, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for everyone watching.
Thank you.
Rosa, 고마워.
감사합니다.
감사합니다. 예. Thank you.
We are on the unceded land of the Piscataway people. We are all here to acknowledge and to join in honoring that this land was held by those before us. We also honor that this land was land that was used once to enslave Black people and people from Africa. So we want to honor that this land has been a space of a lot of intense trauma and suffering, but also that we come here in community to offer healing and a space to transform those traumas into a space of love and protection and care for the peoples that are on this land, that currently live on this land, and also the people who go beyond that. We offer our stewardship of the land, of the plants, and of the space that we are holding. And so we are taking these seeds and we want to offer the seeds and set our own intention. We ask before we take, and also to say that our intention is to take these seeds and to spread them amongst the community of farmers, planters, dyers in Baltimore City and beyond who want to continue to grow and perpetuate the life of this beautiful species. Thank you to the plants. Thank you to everyone.
Just express my gratitude for the land and everyone that's here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
너희 저녁이지?
네.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
인사할게.
Bye.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.